There was a man in Edo period Japan who knew nothing about childbirth, but one day he was forced to perform surgery on a mother in labor. He didn't know at the time, but what he did that day would start a whole medical movement, and his followers would be caught in a countrywide fight against abortion and child killing. Here's what happened that day. The man grabs an iron hook from his shop. The woman next door has been in labor for days, and he just can't bear to hear her painful moans anymore. It sounds like she won't make it. So he runs over to the neighbor's place where they were trying to help her using really effective traditional methods like herbal drinks, burning mugwort, and panicking a lot. The woman is suffering from what back then was often a death sentence. Her fetus had died in the womb. If someone doesn't do something, the mother would become infected, lose blood, and die herself. The man takes his hook and, with the confidence of someone who has never done anything like this before, he carefully puts it in and slowly pulls out the fetus, saving her. His name was Kagawa Gengetsu, and he was a hero who saved women's lives, or a bebe-killing monster, depending on who you asked. If you asked the bebe, it probably would have gone with the latter. Gengetsu ran a shop in Kyoto. Being the firstborn son of a well-known family had a lot of perks. You could inherit your father's lands and his career. Your life was made. Unfortunately, Gengetsu was not that. He was born an illegitimate son, so he had to carve his own path, something better. He sold antique iron and copper items and also acupuncture services and massages. Okay, not necessarily better, but at least he attracted a broad customer base. He also studied traditional Chinese medicine, which gave him enough expertise, he thought, to stick a hook in a mother's uterus and pull out her kid. The whole incident had a deep effect on Gengetsu and his respect for traditional Chinese medicine. He thought maybe the Chinese masters were just saying shit, and decided to make up his own techniques. The man worked hard. He made tools and tested them on other women, which sounds horrific, but things seemed to have worked out. He even let poor pregnant women stay in his place so he could take notes and experiment. He became known in Kyoto as the guy who could save you if your childbirth went wrong. Gengetsu began teaching students, establishing the Kagawa school, a huge step in the development of early modern Japanese obstetrics. It was all about pregnancy and childbirth. For the safety of the mother and child, he invented bebe delivery forceps, and he might have been the first person in the world to claim that fetuses eventually settle into a butt-up position in the womb, meaning it's upside down. People didn't know this fetus fact. They thought the fetus normally sat upright, like a mecha pilot piloting its mother, then flipped right before childbirth. The Kagawa school grew huge and continued after his death. It would last for 100 years. Kagawa doctors delivered children everywhere, including in the imperial court. They used surgical techniques instead of just giving people medicine like everyone else. People loved doctors who kept them from dying. But being famous and loved always comes with a lot of hate. The Kagawa school was stepping into a minefield. The country was in the middle of a fight over bebes, mostly over whether you should kill them. If you thought the abortion debate these days is heated, yes, people did kill infants right after birth. Afterwards, some people even buried the tiny corpse underneath their house. They even had a euphemism for it, sending back, like they're sending the child back to the gods. It was common in large parts of Japan. So was abortion. Abortion and infanticide, nowhere for a fetus to hide. I've already talked about why they did it in another video. Now, not everyone looked kindly on this, least of all the bebes, who had very little time to make a good first impression. The pro-health movement called Yōjō thought that reproduction made the world go round, and it didn't really make sense to them for you to reproduce and then get rid of the results. That was like brewing a pot of ramen broth, and then right after it's done, you'd pour it down a tiny casket. Yōjō writers demonized bebe-killing, or mabiki, calling people who did it evil and sick, insisting that killing a newborn is just as much of a crime as killing an adult. The fact that they had to spell this out meant that many people at the time disagreed. Yōjō people even said if you kill a child, your next child may come out deformed. I don't know if that's the greatest argument against mabiki. I mean, if someone's willing to kill a normal bebe, killing a deformed bebe wouldn't be that big of a deal. This Yōjō health movement really hated the murder of newborns and also abortions, which they saw as the same crime just with a different timestamp. So you can guess they despised this Kagawa school that had been making the news. They called Kagawa Gengetsu uneducated, a fraud who skimmed ideas from a few Western medical texts and called himself a professional. They argued that Kagawa doctors didn't save lives, they killed lives, destroying fetuses that would have otherwise survived. Now, the Kagawa doctors didn't do themselves any favors because they kept their techniques super secret. During an operation, a Kagawa doctor would put a blanket over himself and the woman's legs so no one could see what he was doing and how big the freaking iron hook he used was. He would come into the room with a hook and tools hidden inside his pants. Secrets are like burritos. The tighter you hold onto them, the easier they leak. Critics discovered their secrets and went around crying, look, they're using metal hooks, killing your kids for fame and profit. People accused Kagawa doctors of killing the fetus over the smallest issues. The birth a bit delayed? Hook. A little too much blood? Hook. The tiniest hint of a problem, and they pull out their tools and go all Attack on Titan on those bebes. Maybe sometimes the infant would survive, and to hide their mistakes, these evil doctors would strangle the bebe. Now, in truth, many professions pass down their knowledge and techniques in secret, so the Kagawa school wasn't different from anyone else. But, as always, facts are just mosquitoes on the windshield of a good narrative. The Kagawa school heard the criticism. They had a mission to pass down their practices in secret, but they aborted that mission and actually responded. Kagawa doctors started revealing their techniques, and from their writings they seem to have taken great care to make sure the fetus had died before doing the removal operation. Like they made sure there was no movement in the womb, checked the amount of bleeding, verified how long the labor was, stuff like that. So they more than likely got it wrong all the time. This was before modern medicine, alright? But hey, they tried the best they could. The anti-Mabiki people acknowledged all this transparency and were satisfied that they were right all along. These doctors were killing bebes because how could they know the fetus died? Their methods were not good enough, they were just assuming. In the late 1600s, the shogunate and local governments issued some laws against child killing and child abandonment. People had to let their landlords know if anyone got pregnant and what the results were. Kyoto helped with adoptions, funded wet nurses, and said people had to shelter any abandoned children they saw. But it was in the late 1700s that the government got really serious about abortions and mabiki. Why? Well, in the 1780s, Japan had a catastrophic famine, and afterwards it was like the population number had its blanket taken away. It couldn't recover. The Tokugawa government panicked and did some soul-searching to see where they failed in governing, and decided it was the peasants' fault. Those peasants must be aborting and killing their kids. The anti-bebe murder movement got a huge boost, this time with government officials joining in. The shogunate launched campaigns to educate the public. The heads of villages had to read official educational pamphlets, then gather all the villagers to teach them about the evils of abortion and mabiki. Priests traveled from village to village, passing out texts and giving speeches. Art spread around the country of mothers looking like demons while they smothered their infants. They had many strong arguments against child murder. Like, when you kill a bebe, you're not just killing one person. That kid could have grown up, had children, grandchildren, maybe even great-grandchildren. You might have murdered hundreds of people. Along with arguments, the government issued harsher laws against abortion and mabiki enthusiasts. The laws varied. In some places, the punishments were fines and jail time. Sometimes the head of the woman's household was demoted to hinin, or non-person status. The woman could even become a non-human. In some places, women had to tell the village leaders that they were pregnant. Village officials had to keep careful records and submit them regularly. If a pregnancy ended in the death of the child or mother, the family had to show evidence from a doctor or witnesses to prove that it wasn't an abortion or mabiki. There were two sides to the great bebe debate. Yōjō writers believed people mabikied their kids because they hated responsibilities and wanted to live in luxury. Time to go back, Nobu-chan. Mommy needs a new dining table. Other writers pushed back, saying, no, mabiki didn't happen because people were cruel and irresponsible. It was because they were poor, mostly due to failed government policies. But their words went to the same abyss your Uber Eats delivery notes go to. The other side drowned them out, arguing that children don't cause poverty. It's just some people's fate to be poor, and other people's fate to be dicks about it, apparently. So who was right? Were abortions and mabiki because of poverty? Well, we do see that even wealthy villagers engaged in these acts, so it clearly wasn't always because of poverty. There was something else going on under the floorboards, and that something else may have been cultural. Around this time, there may have been a change in how commoners thought of children. With the popularity of pregnancy and child-rearing manuals, the rise of private schools, the spread of samurai customs to the common folk, these all caused commoners to value their children more. The samurai class always knew the importance of kids. They were great at inheriting your estate and turning your enemies into in-laws. But commoners were just beginning to understand. They started wanting to give their children an education and success in life from a young age. And that's why they killed their children. What? Well, let me explain. You know what's good for your children's future? Math. And math is cruel. What's bigger, your time and resources divided by 2 or divided by 7? Focusing really hard on 2 healthy children was better than splitting focus between 7 malnourished ones. The common advice was you should raise the first 2 or 3 children, but the kids after that you could send back. So ironically, valuing their children's future more might have caused people to kill their other children so that they had enough resources to give their existing ones a head start. Whatever the case, the anti-mabiki side eventually won, especially after the Edo period when Japan began modernizing. Sending back Junior was no longer okay. Abortion is still okay, though. There is one question you should have, however. Parents didn't murder their grown-up kids, so why were they so okay with actually ending their newborns? Well, it was because newborns were not considered fully human. Click here to learn all about the practice of mabiki and how good parents justified it. We have some new YouTube and Patreon members today. Dreaming of Roses, Morgan Ray, Mariam Kutalads, Celeris, Archer McDonald, Robina Demra, Dude Prinny, Link for Universe, Mad Marilyn, and Avon Lee. You're all the best. Alright, I love you and spread the knowledge.